Hey guys, Dylan Allen here from AllenEnduranceCoaching.com. So I know it's been a little bit since we got some YouTube videos up and going. What with pandemic and craziness and kiddo being born, but now we're getting back to normal, semi-normal scheduling. It's still going to be a little different for a little bit. My daughter is doing virtual schooling, so everybody's still at home, and obviously that kind of impacts like our normal daily schedule here. So, between that and newborn at home and everybody working from home, the rate of production of stuff like this has obviously kind of ground to a halt over the last couple months. So, we're hoping to kind of get it back up and going again. So, today, we're kind of doing our first little go round with this, and we're gonna do some gait analysis, kind of talking about different gears and different gaits and the difference between walking and running and easy running and hard running and sprinting and how they're mechanically all different. So I saw some video a couple weeks ago now, finally getting around to talking about it with you guys. So here we go. All right, so what we can see here is a side view of me on the treadmill at the Lambright. I got my mask on, and we're up on the balcony. It's actually a pretty nice day. But what we did is we got on the treadmill, and I set the camera up so I could record what my mechanics look like from the side for starting at 3 miles an hour or 20-minute pace. And then I did a minute at each mile per hour until we got down to 6-minute pace or 10 miles an hour. Overall, it's what you see here is this typical walking. We're just strolling essentially. We got a little bit of a sway to the hips. We're landing on the heel out in front of us, right? All right, so here we bump it down to 4 miles an hour. And so we're moving just a little bit faster. It's a little more of a power walk. You can see I'm kind of getting the arms going. Get a little more of a hip sway to it, but we're still landing on the heel out in front of our foot, even if we are getting a little more power from our hand. Definitely look straight ahead when you're on a treadmill so you don't wobble to the side like I just did there, just as a safety precaution. But you can see the turnover rate goes up just a little bit, but the big difference is we're kind of pushing out behind us a little further than when we were just strolling. The arms are a little more involved, our stride's a little bit longer, and we're kind of pushing a little more with a little more power. Now we got our power hiking out of the way, we're going to boost it up to 5 miles an hour, or 12-minute pace, which for me is a little bit of a jog, and you notice all of a sudden our gait switches so that we're now running. Our feet are coming up behind us, we got one foot on the ground at a time, and we're spending time airborne. Most importantly though, you can kind of see the knee is coming up, and the foot is coming over the ankle, kind of coming up by the knee of the opposite leg on the way by. But it's just a nice, easy jog, landing pretty close to under my hips, kind of a little more upright. But I'm still using my arms. I'm getting a little bit of that hammer swing going, penny in the pocket, whatever you want to call it. Honestly, one of the hard parts about running with good mechanics at really slow speeds is you end up with more vertical oscillation. You can see here, I'm kind of bouncing up and down quite a bit. I bounce quite a bit anyway. But I have a lot of vertical oscillation here as I'm going up and down, which means my foot's driving down into the ground instead of pushing me forward. So it's very difficult to have good running mechanics where you're nice and smooth, pushing yourself forward when you're not trying to put a lot of oomph into each step. But you can see here, like I'm getting a little bit of the bob going, kind of a little bit of a forward and back bob with my shoulders. And we're getting that turnover rate up just a little bit. But here we're popping down to about 7 miles an hour, going about 8:39 pace. Still not working too hard, but it's smoothing out just a little bit because I'm working just hard enough that it feels a little more like my normal running. Now if we bump down to easy pace, down to about 730 pace, so normally for me this would be somewhere in kind of that 65 to 70, 75% of my maximum heart rate. You can see now the heels are coming up a little bit. Obviously still a little stiff because I've got a little bit of crow hop going on. But the heels are coming up higher behind me now. The knees are kind of coming up, looking more like a normal run. You know, my feet are landing a little in front of my hip, but my knees are over my feet. And, you know, sliding back a little bit so we can see the knees here. And overall, you know, that's just easy pace, easy effort, right? We got a little bit of a bob. We're a little unstable because we're not pushing too hard, but it's not looking too bad either. The next leg down here is going to be our marathon pace effort, where we're going to hop in just a little bit faster. We're going to hit about 640 pace for me, working in that kind of that 75 to 80 to 85% effort, depending on who you are. But it's pretty sustainable, just a little bit higher octane. You notice all of a sudden, like I'm moving just a little bit smoother. I'm not bouncing nearly as much, and that's because I'm recruiting the muscle fibers efficiently enough, using the right motor pathway to push myself forward instead of up. You can also notice that my elbows are coming up behind me a little higher, and you can see a good triangle between my body and the pit of my elbow behind me on each arm. So we're getting a little more arm power, a little more arm swing, and that's going to translate to a little more power in the legs. And the last gear we're going to talk about today as we kind of gear up a little bit here is the threshold pace gear. And for me, this is about half marathon pace. It's about 6 minutes per mile, 10 miles an hour. And you can see I'm really getting that elbow drive behind me, especially with my lopsided right arm there. But my heels are coming up behind me, and my knees are coming up high. My feet are landing right under my knee. I'm not getting too much vertical oscillation, but my stride rate has actually gone down a little bit over the marathon pace effort. And this is why the marathon pace effort is more efficient, and the threshold pace is not quite as efficient as we're working that kind of 85 to 90% of maximal capacity. As we're reaching just a little bit further in front of me there, I'm getting a little uncomfortable here because I didn't really quite warm up for it and whatnot. But the point being, the stride is a little bit longer and necessitates my stride rate going down a little bit. And granted, I don't have the highest stride rate anyway. And then we're stopping and cooling down. So I can see here with these different gaits on the treadmill is, you know, we can start with walking and it's super energy efficient, right? We're landing on our heel, everything is stacked up. And it's like biomechanically the most energy efficient way to get from point A to point B. But it doesn't get you to the finish line very quickly, right? Now, if we step it up one notch to like a power hike and we're kind of moving along, but we're still walking, we still always have one foot on the ground, what we can see is the energy expenditure per mile or unit of time, whatever, goes up a little bit, but we get there a heck of a lot faster, right? But it's still pretty doable, especially if we have some kind of stabilization issue, like if we're not physically strong enough or have the endurance in our stabilizing muscles to stabilize our hip and our knee or ankle or our foot through on impact. By not having our whole body weight jammed down on there because we're airborne going up and down, it's less force we have to stabilize, right? Then as we start running and we have that easy shuffle jog, we're covering ground a little more quickly. Our heels are coming up a little higher. We're spending a little bit of time actually airborne, right? And all of a sudden we shift from landing out in front of our hip to landing right under our hip, hopefully, with kind of like a cycle mechanic with our legs instead of, you know, a swing your feet back and forth kind of situation. Then we take it one step faster, just one gear faster, kind of getting into that easy pace. And our mechanics clean up a little bit. We don't have quite as much vertical oscillation because we're actually pushing behind us now instead of just up and down. And so it's more energy efficient than the shuffle jog for covering ground. You know, for every unit of energy we're expending, every calorie we're burning, we're actually covering ground with it instead of pushing ourselves up in the air, right? So we're actually pushing ourselves forward. Now, it is a little more force we're exerting, right? So it takes a little more fitness to actually push that hard.
And this is why Couch to 5K programs do a lot of walking and running alternating. And a lot of new runners, we really suggest alternating walking and running so we can run and get the stimulus to develop the strength and the power necessary to be able to run at whatever gear for extended durations of time. But then if we roll it back and we go a little bit further, a little bit faster, we take it up a notch like marathon effort. And there's a reason it's marathon effort. We have to be energy efficient enough to run for a long time, right? But we're still trying to get there as quickly as we can. Finish time is becoming something we're paying attention to. And so that marathon specific gear is really important for training because we can still go a long way on it. It's not such a high octane fuel that we're getting completely gassed and out of glycogen by the time we're finishing whatever it is we're doing. But we're working hard enough to train the body to start utilizing that glycogen to work just a little bit higher, just a little over that red line. And hopefully we're fit enough that wherever that red line is, we're hitting it right as we hit the finish line in a marathon. And the next step up is going to be about threshold pace, be like half marathon pace, maybe 10K pace for you, depending on who you are. And you notice we're getting a little more knee drive on that one. We're pushing out a little further behind us. And the turnover rate actually goes down a little bit, at least with me. And I'm reaching out a little further ahead of me, and we're kind of pulling ourselves forward a little bit. It's a little more power oriented, and efficiency is a little, biomechanical efficiency is a little less of what we're after, because we're trying to work the aerobic system a little bit. So that's our basic gear shifts. We got walking, power hiking, shuffle jog, easy run, marathon pace, and threshold pace. There are gears faster than that. And we'll get into those in another video, actually, as soon as my foot is better. Let me know what you think down below. What are your pace ranges for these different effort levels? How do you notice the biomechanical shifts as you shift gears from easy pace to marathon pace to walking to power hiking? They're all useful depending on the purpose of the workout and what you're trying to do, what kind of race you're doing. So until next time, train smart. We'll be right back.